Hey, what do you know? This is the Melvin Live show, and thank you so much for being here today. I am so glad to have you here. The few things I'd like to share with you here today, number one is that I want to congratulate Mr. Eric Seam for being nominated as one of the top voices for 2020 on LinkedIn. And to me, that is a big deal because the fact that he has always been leveraging LinkedIn as a platform to share his knowledge as well as to encourage other people has been a phenomenal thing that I've seen so far. And I've always looked up to him in terms of the way that he uses social media and how he uses that to network and to reach out to more people. At the same time, his passion for helping undergraduates, for example, has been tremendous itself. So if you have not check him out, make sure you go and check out Eric Sim on LinkedIn. And with that, thank you so much for being here today. And I would like to share with you the one thing that most online course creators make. And that one thing, one fatal mistake that they make is this thing itself. Now, I'd like to share with you a it's a story, and this story was basically back in my days when I was making a presentation at the Asian Productivity Forum. And so at the forum itself, the main idea was to be able to use the research that we have done, that I have done, me and my colleague have done, to share with the rest of the ASEAN countries in terms of how they could learn from our policies with regards to productivity. And I remember very distinctively at the end of the presentation itself, many people were impressed with the presentation, but very few people remember what I said. Now, the main point I want to get across to you here is the following. Now, many of us who, especially for those of us who are a little bit more academically inclined, what we tend to do sometimes is we tend to over rely on statistics and data and theories when we come to presentation itself, right? And so we kind of get we kind of get overboard with the kind of statistics that we have. And as a result of that, it will make the presentation a lot less palatable. And so here's the thing I want to share with you, right? I mean, the number one mistake or the fatal mistake that most online course creators make or online course trainer make is this. All they do simply is take their existing presentation of their training materials and they kind of just narrate it over, do a voice over that presentation slide itself. Now, what's that going to happen is that with that, you can't possibly do that in the live session, but when it comes to an online session itself, there is an almost immediate disconnect. And the reason why I say that is because when you are doing a presentation online, especially when you're doing a presentation via a virtual platform, there are a few things that you want to take note of. So, number one is that when it comes to presentation, you cannot present like how you write. So, as an example to my earlier story where I shared with you, you know, presenting my entire paper probably is going to work in an academic setting where the audience who are there are all ready and they are attuned to the kind of topic that I was about to share. But when it comes to presentation in to a more general group of people, you will want to consider making it simple. So if you have got a very, very complex topic itself, you got a very complex subject that you want to share, or you want to share something that it's right now not so obvious. And so in order for you to kind of persuade or convince someone else over to your ideas itself, you are going to have to do quite a fair bit of tough sell. And so, what are some of the things that you can definitely look at in this respect itself? It's the following. One is that you want to keep things simple. And when I say keep things simple, it doesn't mean that you kind of make it like really, really simple, but imagine, right? Imagine that you are explaining this thing to your grandmother or to your 8-year old or your 6-year old child, right? So that is a great way to look at it because you want to keep it simple. You want to be able to explain it in such a way that the other person at the other end it's able to understand. And so keep it simple. Speak as if you're like speaking to an old grandmother or you are speaking to a young child. So that's number one. Number two, it's that when it comes to using or presentation, for example, you want to use something that your audience are already familiar with. Now, of course, you need to know what exactly your audience are familiar with, what they are comfortable with, what do they know, right? So, according to their worldview, that's where you want to start. Now, for example, when I start talking about the idea of this 1 million, one person, 1 million all digital business, the main thing behind this is that I know that there are a lot of people out there who are essentially right now trading time for money. And perhaps the time is running out and they have not met their financial goal yet. And so for this group of people, they are starting to get really, really nervous because, due to the pandemic itself, many of them have seen the possibility of them being replaced or become irrelevant or become too expensive to be hired. And so this group of people are in that timeline whereby, they have not met their financial goals and yet their time is kind of running out. But that's say they have a substantial amount of knowledge, and the way that they know how to monetize that knowledge is essentially sell that expertise to the highest bidder, right? So anyone who is willing to pay them a salary, for example, they are prepared to trade their time for that, and in return be compensated in that way itself. Now that's totally fine if that's what you're comfortable in and that's what you are able to cope with, right? Not everybody is made to cope with the fact that you may not get any income in some months, and in other months you may have lots of income, right? So it can lead you to that feast versus famine situation. But the point here is this: you want to be able to look at how you could leverage your know-how and to be able to meet your financial goals as quickly as possible. So I'm using something like that to resonate, to connect with the people who are watching. And this group of people who are watching and they kind of understand and empathize with what I'm saying, it resonates with them. This is where things going to take it to the next level itself, right? So use examples, use metaphors, use case studies, right? Examples, case studies, scenarios that your audience is able to identify with. So that's number two. Number three, that's something that I always love to do is to use some kind of a metaphor or an analogy, right? So to me, I kind of see them as interchangeable, right? So the key idea behind that really is that you want to be able to say that this topic that you're talking about, it's just like this, right? And of course, the just like this has to be something that people are familiar with. So I can give you an example. Like many years back, when I was advising this group of people who were setting up an association, one of the key proposal that I made to them was I wanted to use the idea that they are already familiar with to apply it to the how the association would be structured. So the example I gave them was consider this association just like an airport. I mean, chances are you who are watching, you would have been to an airport at some point in your life. May not be recently, but you would have experience of going to the airport and taking a flight, going there, right? So I the thing I shared with them was the following. I said that just imagine this association as like an airport, right? So who are the people that comes to the airport? Well, there would be people who would want to come to your country, right? So, like for example, if you're coming to visit me here in Singapore, you would have to fly into Singapore to meet me, right? So there could be people who wants to visit the country who would use the airport. There are also people who would want to transit through the airport to get to their next destination. Perhaps they have a connecting flight, or perhaps they want to break their flight into a different leg so that it's more bearable for them. So there could be people who are in transit and they see the airport as just a springboard or a place for them to rest. Now you also have people who wants to be able to sell their products and services at the airport itself, right? And the airport it's seen as a way or a place for this group of people who want to buy such products. Typically, whenever you go to the airport, you will want to pick up something that it's tax free, for example, right? So there could be people who want to sell things. Now, you would also have people who want to come to the airport because they have goods that they want to ship from one place to another. So, I mean, I'm not going to give you the whole long list itself, but essentially there are these four different types of people. And so my suggestion to them is that when you look at the association, the type of people who wants to come to the association, who want to visit your country, who wants to come to your country, these people are like the ones who wants to become a member because they see that this association has something to provide. Now, you could also have people who are transiting, right? So, people who are looking at the association as a springboard, as a place for them to pivot, to take their career to the next level, or to be able to network and to be able to connect with the right type of people. Okay, so that's another group. Now, the third group is that you may also have people who would want to sell things to this group of people who are coming your way, people who are your association members as well. And then, lastly, of course, you may also have people who have got products, who want to be able to ship through your association. Perhaps, you know, this product can be used with whatever your association is doing, and this will enhance the association's work. So when we use the airport analogy or the airport metaphor, it helps them open up their mind and their ability to see beyond what a typical association do. And so, the third thing really is to use metaphor, use analogy as an example, right? And lastly, when you're coming down with a presentation itself, I think one of the key element that you really, really want to focus on is to be able to bring out the emotions. Now, when I talk about emotions, I'm not talking about people falling in love or people kind of, feeling all overwhelmed about a particular emotion itself. When I talk about emotion, there is only three types of emotion that I am looking at. Now, the three types of emotion that I'm looking at, it's basically as follows. Number one, it's the emotion for them to want to do something. They want to work towards something, right? So in the presentation itself, you want to be able to persuade people by igniting that emotions in them. Now, the other emotions that you want them to do is to walk away from it. So, as my example, what I want people to walk away from is to put aside this thing about trading time for money and walk towards this 1 person, 1 million or digital business. And the third emotion is I want people to think about what is it that they want to get rid of, right? And so when we talk about getting rid of, essentially what we're saying here is that is there a problem that you want to get rid of forever or as long as it can last, for example, right? So those are the emotions. I mean, when you're looking at the presentation itself, you want to be able to bring in about emotions. All right, and so that's my sharing with you here today. It has been a great 179 episodes. Tomorrow is going to be a 180th episode. um, I'm working towards something in the coming days, and I'll announce it um, when it's all when there is a little bit more information. I'll provide you with that itself. But essentially, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do five episodes, and these five episodes are going to be focusing on the idea of 1 person, 1 million, or digital business. So if you haven't already signed up, or if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, make sure you subscribe right now, because when this five episodes come up, one of the key things that I will be doing is I will be sharing with you what is some of the things that you can consider if you are looking to build this 1 person, 1 million or digital business, right? And I will say that this thing that I'm offering is an educational thing, something that you can learn and something that you can apply. So there is a principle, there is a framework, there are things that, it's able to help you get actionable advice and implement and see results. That's what we all want, right? So if that is something that interests you, make sure you subscribe to this channel. And if this video has been helpful to you, make sure you leave me a thumbs up. Make sure you leave me a comment. I have been very encouraged because the last couple of days I've been seeing comments from people that, arguably they found me organically through YouTube itself. And I've also earned a new subscriber yesterday. So whew, thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate that. And the main idea here is that, you push and you push and you do the work and you keep showing up. And at some point in time, people are going to take notice. But then again, you have to have a message, right? You have to have a message. So that is something that I have been working on. I would say that when I first started on this journey, I have absolutely no idea what I was going to talk about. I just decided that I want to jump into this live stream and do it every day. Well, it was hard, it was difficult, but here I am at 179 episodes itself. Even my mentor, right? When I first mooted the idea and I shared with him, he was saying that it's really, really tough, but he encouraged me, like he encouraged me and say that, well, just experiment and see what sticks. And I think throughout this whole journey itself, I've learned a lot, and I hope that you have also learned a lot in terms of what I've been sharing. And let me know what you have implemented, what has worked for you, and what has not worked for you. All right. And with that said, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Stay safe and talk again. Bye bye.